Hello and welcome to another vlog in the life of me, a graphic designer in training. So I just finished week 4, which was the friggin' hugest week of my life. Definitely underestimated my workload, which seems to be a recurring theme of my life. So on Friday we just touched on the basics of Illustrator, but Monday we definitely went a lot more in depth. We were given a brief to create icons for a sporting event. The sport that I was given was track and field, and it was for the location of Marrakesh. So we pretty much had to combine those two concepts and create icons for the event. For example, I made icons that were like of sprinting, high jump, long jump, javelin, to give the audience an idea that they were doing track and field sports, and then I incorporated like a Moroccan pattern into that. So that was my design. It wasn't like amazing or anything like that, pretty basic brief, but that was just cool to dive into a little bit more of Illustrator and that side of things, so that we do know how to create icons if we ever need to, which we most definitely will. So it was a good skill to have. Tuesday was fun because we were learning about creating vectors in Illustrator. So on that day we arrived with like our hand-drawn type, and then we scanned that into the computers and we pretty much just turned it into a vector. So it was cool to go through that whole process. I didn't realize how easy it was, but it actually is very easy. And then once it's in the computer, you can manipulate it however you want. So it was really cool to know that if you ever did have a concept in your head that you didn't know how to create it specifically in whatever software you need to straight away, you can just hand draw it, scan it in, and then go from there, so that you just have that initial concept out of your head and then you can do whatever. So that was really cool to learn that that was a possibility. Wednesday's brief was definitely my favorite. It was for a festival called Be the Change, and it was raising awareness with like environmental and community issues, but it was a huge community gathering. So there was like lots of music and fun and food and all of this really cool stuff. So that kind of community fun aspect had to be reflected in the design, but I also had to keep that sort of natural and organic vibe as well. So this is what I came up with. It's definitely my favorite that I've made so far. The process of it was just so much fun, because now that we knew how to make vectors in Illustrator, I was able to actually paint those swatches. I made it all with paintbrushes, and then I scanned it in and colored them and went from there, which was just really cool because I definitely didn't know how to do that before, but I was adapting with what I was learning and incorporating that into my work. So that was just a very cool thing. Earlier this week we'd also been given a brief to work on at home, so I had to come up with an app that was tailored for streetwear fanatics. So yep, like the app concept was to pretty much alert people when brands were dropping releases or whatever. I just had to come up with brand values and like a concept and like an identity for that brand to be able to roll out. So we're doing like mood boards and everything like that. So that was due Thursday, so that we could pretty much get the ticket approval to keep going with that one. Yeah, not a lot happened that day. Friday we had an essay due, which was weird because I haven't done an essay since high school, but we pretty much had been given a famous designer to write about. So mine was Josef Muller-Brockmann, who was an incredible Swiss designer. I respect his work so much. Anyway, that essay was due, and then we had to apply that essay onto a design. So we were given a brief where we had to create a exhibition poster in honor of that designer. So on the front would be like a main piece of work that reflected that artist's design style, and then on the back you would have the essay tailored to however you wanted to set it out. So I came up with this. I thought it was pretty groovy, especially because I felt that it did represent his design style in a way. So that was really cool that I got to do that. Saturday was friggin' rad because I saw Daniel Caesar, which is one of my favorite artists. It was so incredible to finally see him live. It was a pretty disappointing venue. I couldn't really see him at all. It was still really cool, and it was just such an awesome experience. So that was awesome. And today I've just been doing a bunch of homework, getting ready for next week because it's gonna be another big week. I've just been watching lots of Will and Grace, so it's been a pretty good day, pretty crazy. Yeah, it's just gonna be a full-on week next week, so stay Stay tuned. So week 5, done and dusted. It was incredibly intense. On Monday we continued to work on the app branding that we had developed the week prior. So mine was that streetwear app. So for about 4 hours on the Monday we were just thumbnailing the logo, and it was just such a grueling process because you couldn't jump on the computer until it had gotten approved. So we were just like drawing the same thing different ways for like 4 hours, but it was a good process to learn. Anyway, that was Monday in a nutshell, but I did go to Kangaroo Point with my good friend Beck that night, which was really lovely because I've never been there before. It was just super nice to see the city and just sit and chat for a couple of hours and just have social time, which I desperately needed. So that was really nice. So on Tuesday we further developed that app branding from the day prior, established visual language, and then applied it to a poster. So I came up with this. It was a bit rushed. I'm not exactly proud of it, but it still turned out pretty well considering the time restraints. So that's that. On Wednesday we had our visual diary critiques due. We pretty much had to find a bunch of photoshopped images that we really liked and kind of figure out how we think that the artist achieved them. That day we also had a taste of what a really rushed deadline felt like. We had like less than 4 hours to come up with this full 4-page report. So we were given like a huge ass lump of text and we had to lay it out, create the graphic elements for the front cover and the back cover, and just like all of this fun stuff, and it was just so time limited. It was very stressful. I didn't like it at all, but it was interesting to get a taste of most likely what the real world would be like. So that was interesting. That night I also saw my good friend Jazz. We went to Kangaroo Point again. We got Thai because that's our tradition. And it was just a super lovely night. It was nice to catch up with her because I hadn't seen her in a while. On Thursday we got split into groups and we had to develop another app. So the one that we got given was a cooking app where we had to come up with this whole concept of an app that gave you recipes and nutritional information and all this good stuff. So we started on that in the day, caught up with my dad for lunch, which was really nice in the city because it was his birthday on the weekend. And then that night we had a big family dinner. We had like vegan Mexican food and attempted to play some board games, which didn't really work, but it was still a really lovely night. On the Friday we continued to further develop those apps that we'd come up with the day prior. We got to use a program called Sketch, and that pretty much put a visual to what the app would look like, which was super interesting that we got to design it that early on in the process, just based on like the user journeys that we'd come up with based on the personas, lots of terminology. We then used a program called Envision app, which was so cool. If you imported the design that you had for the app, you could make it user interactive. So if you made something clickable on the screen, then imported it to your phone, you could actually test it out like on your phone. And so like if you clicked certain things, it would take you to the next page that you designed and just stuff like that. So once we had that, we did user testing to see if there were any flaws in our design and how we could improve and that kind of thing. So we did all of that and then made a presentation for like a theoretical client, and it was just so interesting and so cool that we got to go through that whole process and kind of just get ready for the real world, I guess, which was really cool. That night I then had a sleepover at my good friend Beck's place. It was so fun. Just nice to pig out and do nothing after a really intense week. Then on the Saturday I explored the city with Beck because even though I live in Brisbane, I don't really know it that well. So that was really cool that we just got to explore the city, go on the city cat, do stuff, take photos, was just really fun. And then today I've just been relaxing again. Sunday's my like do nothing day because it's just so important to do nothing sometimes, but I've just been doing homework for next week, preparation and all that fun stuff. So yeah, next week's gonna be even more intense. I think that's just the theme of this course, is like every week is more intense than the last one. So yeah, you'll see that soon. Alright, we made it. Week 6. I think this was my favourite week so far. 1, because we started learning Photoshop, and 2, because it was only 4 days of class. So Monday was our introduction to Photoshop. We just learned the basics, what the tools were and everything like that. We were also learning about how to make pathways so that we could cut images and make them into their own PNG files. Tuesday was Photoshop Continued, where we were learning more about how to make masks. So that's where, like, if you put a photo of my face on one layer and then a circle over the top of my face on a second layer, and then you masked it, my face would appear in the circle. So it was just like images taking the form of whatever you wanted them to. That was really interesting. It was an emotional roller coaster because I couldn't figure it out for half the time, but once you get it, it is so much fun. Wednesday we had another rushed brief where we had to come up with a magazine cover for a travel magazine. The whole thing was that they wanted to be unconventional and non-conformist, so we had to take all of the skills that we just learned in Photoshop and apply it to the front cover in whatever way we wanted by portraying the unconventional vibe. So I came up with this and I mocked it up on the front cover of a magazine. I was pretty proud of it considering we only had like 4 hours to work on it, so that was really fun. That same day I had lunch in the city with Becky. We had Guzman's, which was great, and that same night caught up with my good friend Biren for Thai at Paw Cafe, and it was so lovely to finally see her again, so that was a really great day. On the Thursday we continued to learn about UX design. So we were given a persona sheet which was based on someone's career. So I was given a flight attendant, and then we had to create a organizational app based on that person's wants and needs. So for example, a flight attendant might need to keep on track of different flight schedules and time zones and all of that stuff. So we had to incorporate those ideas into an app, and then we'll further elaborate on that next week, I think, with making the actual design. So we were just doing like a bunch of thumbnails with possible designs that we'll execute next week. That night I saw friggin' Lana Del Rey. She was incredible. Oh my god, I am still fangirling to this moment. I can't get over how amazing she is. She's so talented, so flawless, so kind. So that was incredible. On Good Friday, I spent the morning hanging out with God, and then did a bunch of homework, and then just chilled in bed watching some Doctor Who because it was like nice and rainy and that type of thing. And yeah, just smashed out a whole bunch of work that day. On the Saturday, my cousin Ali visited from Newcastle, and so we went to Movie World, which was so much fun. I am such a like thrill seeker, so the roller coasters were incredible. I had the best time ever, and it was just so good to see her after so many years, so that was awesome. It was such a lovely day. And then today, Easter Sunday, I've just been relaxing, spending some more time with God, doing some more work for next week because we have a big handmade project coming up soon, and then tonight I'll probably go to the City Point Easter production. So yeah, it's been a really good week. It's been super busy. I'm very exhausted, but it's good. I'm still really liking what I'm learning. I just have to stick it out and get better at time management, I think, but overall doing good. So I'm going to end the vlog there. Thank you guys for watching and listening to me rant about graphic design stuff. Very sorry if I don't make sense. I'm still learning, but if there's anything you guys want to see or you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments. And if you've liked this video, you can like it, subscribe and all that jazz. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye!